Your position here is terminated effective immediately. Grant Walters' voice cut through the San Diego boardroom like a cold blade, his finger aimed at my chest as if delivering a final verdict. 20 pairs of eyes shifted toward me, some uneasy others studiously avoiding my gaze. At 58, I'd spent the last 8 years building this company's Western region into a record-breaking powerhouse. My leather portfolio, filled with charts proving a 23% lead over every other division, felt suddenly heavy in my hands. And what Grant continued pacing the polished mahogany table, "Have we truly gained from your contributions?" His tone dripped with condescension. Moments earlier, the meeting had been routine coffee cups steaming, muted small-talk notebooks opening. Then Grant skipped the agenda entirely, locking his eyes on me. "We need someone who delivers genuine results," he declared. "Someone innovative, not someone riding on others' successes." My mind raced. The numbers were indisputable: highest client retention in company history, 3 major accounts signed under my guidance. "I don't understand," I managed, my voice barely audible. "Your territories are my territories," he shot back, eyebrows arching. "The collaborative approach I implemented is what turned those numbers around. Your resistance to it has become a problem." The collaborative approach was my invention, my restructured client engagement model designed after spotting glaring gaps. But before I could respond, he cut me off. "This isn't up for debate. The decision was made at the highest levels. Be out by noon. HR will assist." 8 years of 60-hour weeks, missed anniversaries, and canceled family trips, all ending in a public execution. The projector hummed. A watch ticked. Then a chair scraped. "One moment, please." The voice came from the far end of the table where junior staff usually sat unnoticed. Hannah Price, my 24-year-old intern, rose, laptop in hand. "This isn't appropriate," Grant snapped, flicking his wrist to dismiss her. Ignoring him, she walked deliberately to the head of the table, turning her screen toward him. "Everyone should see this. It's relevant." Grant leaned forward, irritation etched deep until he saw what she was showing him. His face drained of color. He stumbled back a half step, gripping the table. "She's standing right behind you," Hannah said. Grant spun around. In the doorway stood Eleanor Marks, the legendary industry leader whose visit wasn't scheduled until next week. Her silver hair was pulled back in its signature style, her eyes sharp and assessing. "I came early," she said softly, "to meet the innovator behind your company's remarkable regional transformation." Her gaze moved from Grant to me, then back. "It seems I've arrived at quite a moment." The silence was suffocating. 22 people waited to see what would happen next. If you believe in standing up for what's right, please subscribe. Your support helps bring more stories of justice and redemption to light. Lena, to anyone who knows me. I grew up in a small coastal town in Oregon where expectations for girls rarely stretched beyond marriage or maybe teaching. My father owned a small marine supply shop. My mother taught 5th grade. Life was steady, predictable, until my senior year when I won a national business competition. That unexpected win opened doors to a university I could never have afforded otherwise. I studied marketing and strategic management, graduating at the top of my class while working 2 jobs to stay afloat. While classmates networked at alumni dinners, I poured their coffee as part of the catering crew. Those years taught me to watch closely how people operated, what drove them, what made them feel valued. After graduation, I joined a mid-sized tech services firm in San Diego. I started in the lowest role, answering phones and managing calendars, but I paid attention. By my 2nd year, I'd developed a client engagement model to fix glaring service gaps. My supervisor gave me the smallest, most neglected territory to test it. 6 months later, it had grown 37%. Within a year, it was the top performer in the company. That's when Grant Walters, our executive VP of Client Relations, noticed me. He called me a rare talent, invited me to strategy meetings, and positioned me for advancement. For 3 years, we were an effective team. My strategies, his platform. My territories beat projections quarter after quarter, and clients asked for me by name. Then everything shifted. Last fall, at an industry conference in Phoenix, I presented our regional transformation strategy to a packed audience. Afterward, an elegant woman with silver hair approached. "Your approach is refreshingly client-focused," she said, handing me her card, Eleanor Marks, founder and CEO of Marks Global. When I told Grant the following Monday, his smile didn't reach his eyes. "What exactly did you tell her?" he asked sharply. I explained it was just my presentation material. He told me next time direct those inquiries to me. A week later, I received an email from Eleanor's office asking for a follow-up. I forwarded it to Grant. His reply was immediate. "I'll handle this. Focus on your territories." 2 days later, I learned he'd already scheduled a call with her without me. Soon, my strategies were described as our executive approach in meetings. Grant joined my client calls, standing just ahead of me during presentations, taking credit when clients praised my methods. Then came the reassignments first. One major account, then another, moved from my oversight to his direct teams. The official reason: strategic alignment. My numbers suffered. My new performance metrics no longer included the territories I'd built. I might have questioned my own instincts if not for Hannah, my intern. Hannah had joined us 3 months earlier, quiet, observant, blending into the background of ambitious young hires cycling through our San Diego office. She was assigned to me at first, then partially reassigned to assist Grant Walters. Hit subscribe now because the next chapter is already unfolding, and trust me, you'll want to be there when the truth comes out. "He's systematically pushing you out," she whispered over lunch 6 weeks ago. "I've been organizing his files. He's taking your top accounts, then changing the success metrics to make you look ineffective." That can't be right. I said, though the pit in my stomach told me otherwise. We've worked together for years. He's always supported my career. "Until you became a threat, until Eleanor Marks took interest in your work," Hannah replied. That afternoon, I checked the shared calendar and froze. 3 weeks from now, presentation of regional transformation strategy and client retention framework. My framework, my strategy, my name nowhere in the notes. I confronted Grant immediately. "I saw Eleanor is visiting. I'd like to prepare the presentation." "That won't be necessary," he said without looking up. "I'll handle it. It's my framework," I pushed back. 4 years of development and testing. He cut me off. "Did you develop it on company time with company resources? Then it's company property implemented under my executive direction." "You're taking credit for my work," I said plainly. "That's an inappropriate accusation," he replied, his tone turning cold. "And your recent performance metrics are troubling, because you reassigned my best accounts and altered the metrics I countered. This defensive attitude is the problem. Maybe we should discuss your future here more broadly." The next 2 weeks were suffocating. Colleagues who once sought my input avoided me. My access to certain systems was under maintenance. Projects I'd initiated were handed to others. The morning of the quarterly meeting, I came prepared with proof my remaining accounts were still thriving. I believed naively that facts would protect me. I was wrong. Grant publicly declared my termination before 20 silent colleagues. My voice caught in my throat. 60-hour weeks, missed family milestones, all reduced to this moment. Then a chair scraped. "One moment, please," Hannah said from the far end of the table, laptop in hand. "This isn't appropriate," Grant snapped. Ignoring him, she placed her laptop in front of him. "Everyone should see this." His face went pale. "She's standing right behind you," Hannah said. Grant turned. In the doorway stood Eleanor Marks, silver hair, severe gaze sharp. "I came early," she said softly, "to meet the innovator behind your remarkable regional transformation." The room held its breath as Grant's narrative began to unravel. This wasn't luck, it was deliberate. And in that instant, I understood everything from my public humiliation to Eleanor Marks's early arrival had been part of a plan I hadn't seen. The boardroom fell silent. Grant's confident facade began to crack, a muscle twitching at his jaw. His hands opened and closed against the polished table. "Perhaps we should continue this discussion privately," Eleanor suggested, her voice calm but carrying authority. Grant jumped in. "Of course, my office." "Not your office," she cut in. "A neutral space. And I'd like Ms. Lena to join us." Her gaze moved from him to me, then to Hannah. "Along with your assistant, who seems unusually informed. Hannah is just an intern." Grant waved dismissively. "Nevertheless, I'd like her present," Eleanor said. 20 minutes later, we sat in a top-floor conference room usually reserved for board meetings. Eleanor at the head, Grant and I opposite each other, Hannah beside me with her laptop open. "Let me be transparent," Eleanor began. 3 months ago, I began receiving information about an innovative regional development framework, one that addresses challenges my own company has faced for years. As I explained earlier, Grant started. "I wasn't speaking to you," Eleanor interrupted without looking at him. "The communications came from 3 former clients of yours, all now with my organization. Each independently credited Lena as the architect of the approach that transformed their business." My mind raced. Tarek from healthcare, maybe Jasmine from last year. "When I met Ms. Lena in Phoenix," Eleanor continued, her explanation confirmed everything I'd heard. "That's why I arranged this visit, to explore implementing her methodology across my company, perhaps even hiring her as a consultant." Grant's smile turned rigid. "While Lena has contributed, the framework was developed under my direction." Eleanor's tone was dry. "By firing the very person whose work drew my interest, performance issues," Grant countered. "May I?" Hannah turned her laptop toward Eleanor. "These are Lena's performance metrics before recent changes." Grant's head snapped toward her. "Those are confidential. I have authorization," Hannah said evenly. "I was assigned to her analytics support and retained full access." Eleanor scrolled through the data. "Fascinating. Top performance until 7 weeks ago, when key accounts were reassigned." "Strategic realignment," Grant said. 3 days after my office contacted your company," Hannah added. Eleanor's eyes fixed on him. "Looks like I've interrupted quite a scheme." "This is being mischaracterized. I came to meet the innovator," Eleanor cut him off. "Instead, I saw her publicly dismissed." "Ms. Lena, shall we meet tomorrow at 9? Grant froze, calculating. If he rescinded my firing, he'd have to explain it. If not, he'd lose Eleanor's interest entirely. "Perhaps there's been a misunderstanding," he said finally. "Perhaps we should postpone any decision about Lena's position until after a full performance review," Grant said, his voice feigning reason. "How generous," Eleanor Marks replied, her tone making it clear she saw through the maneuver. "Ms. Lena, my offer stands regardless of your employment status here." "Thank you," I said, steadying my voice. "I'll be happy to meet tomorrow." As the meeting broke, Eleanor left with her assistant and silence settled over the room. Grant's eyes were ice. Any trace of mentorship was gone. "This isn't over," he said quietly. "You've made a serious mistake." When he was gone, I turned to Hannah. "Who are you really, and what just happened?" She closed her laptop with deliberate calm. "Exactly who I said, your intern, but with a more specific purpose than you realized. You engineered all this, Eleanor's arrival, the documents." "Not entirely," she said with a faint smile. "I created the opportunity for truth to surface." "Why, you've only been here 3 months. Do you remember Peyton?" The name hit me hard. "Peyton Ross from the Northwest region." Hannah nodded. "My older sister." Memories surfaced. Peyton, sharp and driven, slowly pushed out after challenging Grant over credit for her strategy. Her successes reassigned, her failures magnified. She'd trusted the system until it was too late. Now she was back in her parents' grocery store degree, collecting dust, depression nearly breaking her. "I tried to help her," I said. "I know. She told me you were the only one who stood up for her. That's why I asked to be placed with you, partly revenge, partly prevention." Peyton was just the first victim I knew personally. You wouldn't have been the last. How did you know what he was planning? How did you get those documents to Eleanor? The same way you work watching patterns. People show their intentions when they think no one is paying attention. Her phone buzzed. She glanced at it, then stood. We should leave separately. Grant's with the executive team right now shaping the narrative. By morning, he'll have a plan. What do? I asked. Prepare for your meeting with Eleanor, and trust no one here, not yet. I watched her walk away, realizing this quiet young woman had orchestrated what could either save or end my career. Men like Grant didn't forgive public humiliation. The next 12 hours passed in a blur. No calls, no emails, no word from HR. At 8:30 the next morning, I entered Eleanor's hotel through the side door. A hand caught my elbow. Not that way, Hannah said, appearing from nowhere. Service elevator. It goes straight to the executive floor. I've been here since 7, Eleanor asked me to set up. The service elevator opened into a quiet hallway leading to the hotel's premium suites. Hannah guided me to the last door, knocking twice before stepping inside. The suite had been turned into a temporary command center, a long conference table covered in documents and open laptops. Eleanor Marks sat reviewing a folder while 2 team members worked at separate stations. Ms. Lena Eleanor greeted, rising to shake my hand. Thank you for coming. We have much to discuss. For the next 2 hours, I walked them through my regional transformation framework, its design, the problems it solved, and the results it had delivered. They asked sharp, thoughtful questions, exploring its limits and adaptability. It was the most respectful professional exchange I'd had in years. No interruptions, no one trying to take credit, no one questioning my authority on my own work. This is exactly what we need, Eleanor said at last. Your approach solves the market penetration challenges we've been battling. I'd like to offer you the role of head of client strategy. Full authority, proper attribution, and competitive compensation. The offer left me stunned. That's incredibly generous, I managed. Before I could say more, my phone buzzed. HR director's number. Eleanor nodded. Take it. It might matter to your decision. I stepped into the adjoining room. Lena, this is Dana from HR. The executive team has reviewed yesterday's events. Grant Walters has been placed on administrative leave pending investigation into allegations regarding intellectual property and performance manipulation. My pulse quickened, and my position. The termination is rescinded. The company is prepared to offer you a promotion and compensation increase to keep you. Yesterday, I was fired. Today, they wanted to promote me. When I asked. 3 o'clock. The entire executive team will be present. Back in the suite, Eleanor listened as I explained. Convenient timing, she observed. Hannah spoke from her corner. They got word of Eleanor's offer 30 minutes ago. Anonymous email, full terms sent to every executive. I blinked. How? The terms were finalized yesterday, Hannah said. The email was scheduled no matter what. You're working together, I said slowly. Not a plan. Eleanor corrected. A correction, a rebalancing. Just as we've done for others, Grant has targeted. How many? 7, confirmed, Hannah answered. All women. All innovators Grant claimed credit for, then forced out. Eleanor added. My interest in your framework was real, but when Hannah showed me the pattern, the scope became clear. Hannah met my eyes without apology. After Phoenix, I saw him starting the same playbook he used on my sister. I wasn't about to let it happen again. Why go through all this, I asked. Why not just report Grant's behavior to HR, because men like him rarely leave evidence HR can use, Eleanor Marks said. They operate in gray areas, build powerful allies, and control the narrative. By the time the system catches up, the damage is done. So what happens now? Do I take your offer or the company's? That depends on what you want, she said. Justice, advancement, vindication. Something else. 6 years of my life had gone into building my role at the company. I'd created something that worked only to see how easily it could be stolen. I want to make sure this never happens to anyone else. Not here, not anywhere. Grant might go next. Eleanor smiled. Exactly what we hoped you'd say. Hannah opened her laptop. We've been collecting evidence for months, not just about Peyton, my sister, but a 5-year pattern. Emails reviews, meeting notes, account transfers. 7 women, including you. Everyone mentored by Grant at first, then isolated after creating something valuable until they either quit or were fired. I stared at the screen. How did you even get all this? No hacking, Hannah said. Just access he never thought an intern would use. But why is Eleanor involved? Eleanor's expression darkened. The first name on that list, Elise Farrow, worked under Grant at his last company before joining mine. 3 years later, she took her own life. Her journals described exactly what you've experienced: credit theft, isolation, destruction of confidence. I promised her family I'd watch for this pattern. When Hannah came to me, I knew. This isn't just about you, Hannah added. It's about stopping him before he hurts anyone else. I exhaled slowly. So what's the plan for 3 o'clock? That depends, Eleanor said. Whether you go back or join me. Even with him on leave, the culture won't change overnight. What if you had leverage to make it change? Hannah asked, sliding a sealed envelope across the table. Inside Eleanor's formal offer, Senior VP of Strategy, double my salary, full attribution, and a development team to scale my framework company-wide. That's incredibly generous, I said. It's fair, Eleanor replied. But before you decide, you should know what's already in motion. This morning, Hannah said 3 of your largest clients learned the strategies they were told came from Grant were actually yours. They've demanded meetings with your CEO. And Eleanor added, a business journalist has the full documentation. Story runs next week. Plus, Hannah finished 3 former employees, including Peyton, have hired attorneys for wrongful termination and discrimination. Their lawyers contacted your general counsel today. Clients press lawsuits, every pressure point hit at once. No wonder my company suddenly valued me. So the 3 o'clock meeting I began. Damage control, Eleanor Marks finished. They need you now, not just for your skills, but to prove to clients, the press and lawyers that they value innovation and don't have a systemic problem. What exactly are you suggesting? I asked. Hannah smiled, her first real smile since I'd met her. Whatever you want. You have all the power now. We've created the circumstances. How you use them is up to you. I sat back. 24 hours ago, I had no options. Now I had more than I'd ever imagined. The car will take you home and pick you up at 2:30 if you decide to attend, Eleanor said. Either way, my offer stands. Hannah slid me a small USB drive. Everything we've discussed is here, plus documents you might need. Make your choice with full knowledge. The weight in my palm felt heavier than its size, secrets, leverage, possibilities. Thank you, I said, meeting both their eyes. Sometimes, Eleanor said as I left, the line between justice and revenge is perspective. At precisely 3 o'clock, I entered the executive conference room. 9 people sat waiting, everyone except Grant. CEO Martin Hayes rose. Lena, thank you for coming. Please sit. He gestured to the seat directly opposite his, a power position I wouldn't have been given yesterday. I placed my portfolio and Eleanor's sealed offer letter on the table, logo facing them. I understand there have been developments regarding my employment. Yes, Martin said, glancing at the letter. There was a serious misunderstanding yesterday. Grant's actions were not authorized by this leadership team. And he's on administrative leave, pending a full investigation, Dana from HR confirmed. We've begun interviewing staff past and present. And my position, Martin leaned forward. We value your contributions. The framework you developed has transformed our client engagement. We'd like to promote you to Senior Director of Strategy Implementation, reporting directly to me with a 40% salary increase. generous but still short of Eleanor's offer. What prompted this reevaluation, I asked. Silence. They knew about the client contacts, the looming press story, the legal threats. We've received positive client feedback, Martin began. This morning, I finished for him. I slid documents across the table. My continued employment comes with conditions: full attribution for my framework, a review of all performance evaluations Grant conducted over 5 years, a formal intellectual property protocol, and a mentorship program for women in strategy roles. These are substantial requests, Martin said. Their requirements I corrected along with a public acknowledgement of my work in all client materials. The CFO cleared his throat. That would require significant resources. I smiled faintly. So does fixing a systemic problem. The mentorship initiative alone could help prevent the company from losing top talent, I added, and might avoid costly legal action like the cases brewing with former employees. That silenced the room. Martin Hayes studied me with a sharper awareness, weighing my unexpected leverage. "We need time to review your requirements," he said at last. "Of course," I replied. "I have another meeting with Eleanor Marks at 5 to discuss her offer. I'll give you my decision by 9 tomorrow morning." As I rose, Martin asked, "What exactly happened with Grant?" He claimed credit for innovations he didn't create, manipulated metrics to control narratives, and eliminated anyone he saw as a threat, especially talented women. "And you have proof?" "Extensive. And so do others." The tension was unmistakable. They could no longer claim ignorance. I left them with one final note: Peyton Voss was right. The Northwestern strategy was entirely hers. Grant had nothing to do with it. The next day, Martin called at 8 a.m., agreeing to all my conditions with only minor changes. Eleanor supported my choice to stay, noting that changing culture sometimes required working from within. Hannah transitioned from intern to director of analytics and attribution verification, her background in data forensics making her perfect for the role. Grant's leave became a permanent termination within 3 days, the investigation confirming Hannah's findings. The company quietly settled with Peyton and the others, providing career restoration and positive references. Over the following months, I rolled out my territory transformation framework company-wide, with proper attribution at every stage. Client response was overwhelmingly positive. 6 months later, I stood in the same conference room presenting year-end results, a 27% improvement over projections. "Any questions?" I asked. Hannah raised her hand. "Perhaps you could share the mentorship program results?" "Of course. 12 participants so far, with 3 promotions directly tied to projects from the program." After the meeting, Hannah lingered. She slid her tablet to me. "Seen this?" It was a job listing for a strategy director role in Denver, nearly identical to Grant's old position. "He's interviewing?" I asked. She nodded. "They'll know his history by tonight. The exec team, HR, and all 3 female finalists, each with strong innovation records, will have documentation in hand." "You're still tracking him," I said. "Justice isn't a single action," Hannah replied. "It's an ongoing commitment until the pattern stops, and every woman he's harmed reclaims her career." Hannah gathered her folders, sliding her laptop into her bag. "Elise Farrow thought she was alone," she said quietly. "She believed what happened was her own failure, not targeted sabotage. Peyton thought the same until she realized there were others." She met my eyes. "No one should feel that isolation." She reached the door. "Was it worth it?" I asked, the question that had been with me since her first revelation 6 months ago. All the planning, the documentation, the work with Eleanor. Just to stop one man. Hannah's expression softened. "Ask me after you meet Naomi Chen next week. She's interviewing for our new senior strategy role. Brilliant innovator. Pushed out of her last company after her male supervisor claimed her award-winning client model. Another of Grant's victims. Different predator. Same pattern," Hannah said. "She doesn't yet know she's not alone, or that her ideas will be protected here." I realized then this wasn't just about taking down Grant Walters. Hannah and Eleanor had built the beginnings of a system, one designed to identify and counteract the broader pattern that let people like him thrive. A system where innovation would be protected no matter the gender or title of its creator. The meeting's Tuesday at 10, Hannah added. I think you'll hear echoes of your own story. She left, and I sat for a moment in the quiet conference room reflecting on the last 6 months. I had gone from public humiliation to a leadership role, from isolation to having an entire network at my back, from powerless to a position where my voice carried weight. The company was changing. Attribution protocols now ensured every innovation was linked to its true creator. The mentorship program was already opening doors for voices that had once been overlooked, and people like Grant could no longer operate unseen. My phone buzzed. A text from Hannah confirmed. Denver company pulled the strategy director listing. Board chair calling an emergency meeting on hiring practices. I smiled, picturing Grant hearing again that an opportunity had disappeared. Not by accident, but because his history had been laid bare by women he underestimated. Women who turned personal injustice into an organized network of accountability that followed him wherever he went. The best revenge wasn't the dramatic public takedown. It was the steady dismantling of the conditions that allowed him to succeed at others' expense. It was building a culture where his tactics no longer worked, where attribution was verified, isolation was impossible, and metrics were transparent. Hannah hadn't just helped me save my career. She'd shown me how one victory could protect many. That's worth more than revenge. I want to hear from you. You've just walked with me through one of the hardest and most transformative chapters of my career. Now I'm standing here, not as someone who simply survived, but as someone who reclaimed her voice and used it to change the rules for everyone who comes after. If you've ever been in a situation where your work was stolen, your contributions dismissed, or your voice silenced, I want you to tell me in the comments. Share your story with me. Let's make sure none of us ever feels alone again. Your words can do more than you think they can validate someone else's experience, give them courage to stand up, or even inspire them to take action. And here's my advice document. Everything, trust your instincts and find allies you can count on. Bullies in the workplace thrive on silence and isolation. The moment you break that pattern, their power begins to fade. If my story resonated with you, please like this video, subscribe, and turn on notifications. Your support helps me keep telling stories that matter, and together we can keep building a world where credit always goes to those who earn it.